Coffee. It's what helps you get out of bed in the morning, or maybe your only moment alone. It's like a small vacation. Perhaps that cruise to the Caribbean is a little out of budget, but that $4 latte before, during, and after work, that's doable. Over a cup of coffee, relationships are formed, business deals are made, and jobs are found. Students find a little cafe to tuck themselves into a corner so they don't have to miss out on what's happening in the world, as they spend hours poring over books. So you could sort of say that degrees are earned over coffee. When we think of coffee, some think of that sweet aroma they stumble out of bed for. Others think of,
I would like a grande vanilla bean frappuccino with 1 shot blended in, 1 poured on top with caramel and extra whipped cream.
Beyond what we put into our cup of brew, there's a lot more to coffee than we realize. Not all coffee is created equal. There's commercial coffee and specialty coffee. A commercial coffee is usually packed in tins and pre-ground and sold with a large brand name for a lower price and in larger quantities. Specialty coffee is usually roasted by a small store or business and accompanied with descriptions like gourmet or premium. Specialty coffee, like all coffee, is graded on a 100-point scale, but specialty coffee must score 85 points or higher. Most commercial coffee is scored at about 50 to 60 points. What makes specialty coffee score so high is how it's grown, the climate, the number of defects in the beans, how it's roasted and stored, and so on and so forth. While we're at our favorite cafe, we might notice signs like certified organic, grown without any synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, or pesticides, fair trade, coffee which is purchased directly from growers for a higher price than standard coffee, shade grown, coffee grown under a canopy of trees, as it incorporates principles of natural ecology to promote natural ecological relationships. We think, all right, something good is coming from this little habit. But a new word is entering the scene of coffee, and it's getting the attention of people who have nothing really to do with coffee, but rather with education. The new word is Humanic. If you were to look it up in the dictionary, you wouldn't find it. Google it and you might find a shoe company. But this word has nothing to do with shoes. In our story, no large certification standards have formed around it as of yet, but it is something worth talking about. It brings an interesting twist to the coffee world. Let me tell you how it began. While sitting around a casual meeting, coffee roaster Mike Bagby and his friends who enjoy his coffee decided to come up with a word that best describes what he and his coffee company is doing. They felt organic, fair trade, and shade grown were great, but there wasn't a standard word that expressed what their coffee did. Now, the best way to help you understand why this was important is to tell you the story of Rio Coco coffee. Once upon a time, in 1980, along the Atlantic coast of Nicaragua, war erupted between the Sandinista government and the local indigenous population. The Sandinista confiscated all vehicles, boats, and boaters. The Cubans arrived and they took over the schools. Math books started using pictures of hand grenades and AK-47s to teach addition. Homes were burned, people and cattle were killed, and it resulted in over 60,000 refugees fleeing to neighboring Honduras.
What does this have to do with coffee?
Now hold on, we're getting there. By 1986, most of the refugee children had been without education for 5 or more years. Something had to be done. Enter Sharon and Earl Washburn. They arrived in a Honduran village near the Nicaraguan border where Truman Cunningham and our friend Michael Bagby had set up a relief distribution center to help Indian refugees. Michael was asked to help start schools for the children, and so with the help of Sharon and her husband, they started schools in 4 villages. Michael also met Victoria Palacios, a professor of education at the National University. She volunteered to help train the now called Project Ezra teachers. With her help, along with others, Project Ezra expanded over the next year to include 12 villages and employ 24 Mosquito Indian teachers. In 1990, the war ended in Nicaragua, and Humberto Belli, the new Minister of Education invited Project Ezra to become part of the Nicaraguan public school system. And now Michael and his wife Laura and a great team have official charge of education in 17 communities along the lower Rio Coco.
Any chance of that cup of coffee?